the elder of the hollow pines. Long before the Bob Marshall had a name, before the first tribes settled the land, before glaciers retreated and filled the valleys with rivers, before the larch and pine grew tall enough to whisper, something else lived here. It was not an animal, not a spirit, not a god. It was a shape of the forest, a consciousness grown from root and stone, a watcher formed when the world was colder and the nights lasted longer. It had no name, because nothing alive then had a voice to name it. It existed where the light rarely reached, where the old-growth trees grew so tightly that even predators avoided the shadows between them. It did not feed. It did not sleep. It simply was, as endless as the seasons. And for a long time, it was alone. The first people and the first rule broken. Thousands of years passed. The forest changed. Animals returned. Humans came with them. Most kept to the open plains or river valleys, but a few ventured deep into the dense interior, drawn by a kind of unsettling curiosity. They felt a presence, all of them, a heaviness beneath the ground, a watchfulness in the air that grew stronger the deeper they traveled. The first people learned quickly. The interior was not to be entered alone. What lived there did not chase them, did not harm them. It simply watched. But when a lone hunter, curious, bold, foolish, ventured past the ancient larch grove during the longest night of winter, something changed. He glimpsed it, a silhouette among the trees, antlers twisted like roots, a faceless head of bark and shadow, limbs too long and still. The hunter did not scream. He simply froze. The entity leaned, studied, and examined him, but not with hunger, with recognition. The hunter returned to his people days later, shaking, sleepless, changed. He heard whispers where none existed. He knew what stalked him even when he stared into firelight. He fled across the plains, but the forest shadow followed him. And when he died alone, far from home, his body showed no wounds. Only black branching patterns beneath the skin, like roots spreading outward from the heart. After that, the people left the deep interior alone. The thing of the timberline did not cross rivers or open land. It stayed within its ancient boundary. For a while, the first settlers. Ignorance breeds curiosity. Centuries passed. Then came settlers-travelers who believed the wilderness could be charted, owned, tamed. Some built small cabins along the edges of the forest. Most avoided the deeper paths after dark. But a few loggers, trappers, explorers went too far in. They told stories, quietly after whiskey. Stories about trees that moved when you weren't looking, knocking that echoed without wind, antlers found twisted into impossible spirals, and silhouettes taller than any man, watching from the ridge. One story survived longer than the rest. A trapper named Elias. He vanished for 3 days. When he returned, he said he'd gotten lost in the interior and stumbled into a grove where the air felt thick and the trees leaned inward as if listening. He swore he'd seen a figure among them, human-shaped, but wrong, like wood had learned to walk. No one believed him until he died that winter, black branching veins spreading across his chest. The forest entity has existed since before language. It is not evil, not in the human sense. It is curiosity given shape, a guardian of its own territory, a collector of its own stories. And seeing it, truly seeing it, is a violation it cannot ignore. The moment a human locks eyes with its faceless form, something forms between them, a recognition, a tether, a mark. The entity does not chase prey. Prey is beneath it. Instead, it studies the ones who cross its boundary, who witness its presence. It watches them leave, waits, learns them. And when the time is right, it comes to them not for revenge, not for blood, but to complete the connection they started. Those it chooses begin to change. The mark appears, the forest whispers, and eventually they return. Not because it drags them back, because the mark compels it. Why it awakened now? The modern trigger. For decades, the interior stayed undisturbed. Few humans ventured deep enough to breach its territory. But recently, with maps improving, with hikers pushing further, with solitude becoming a commodity, more people entered the old larch groves. More people glimpsed it, And every person who sees the entity adds something to it. Knowledge, awareness, boundaries are stretched wider. The entity today, older than maps, still watching, and the truth behind the timberline. It still resides in the Bob Marshall interior, but its reach is longer now. Memory strengthens it, fear calls it, awareness feeds it, and those who look upon it have already been chosen. Some come back to the wilderness willingly, others vanish without returning. But all who see the entity carry a part of the forest with them, a whisper, a mark, a claim. The entity is as old as the land itself, older than the trees that hide it, older than the rivers that bound it, older than the fear that accompanies its presence. And if you ever wander too deep into the Bob Marshall, past the last switchback, past the forgotten cairns, and past the collapsed cabin in the meadow, you may feel it watching. And if you see it, truly see it, the forest will never forget your face, even if it has none of its own.